Welcome back to the channel, folks. It's good to see you. Glad to have you. Pull up a chair, have a seat. Let's do part 2 of the Fellowship of the Gnome series. And we got the wizard all done. I think this wizard design turned out absolutely fantastic. I love the way the painted one turns out with the, the stars and the hat and all of that. But the black walnut Danish oil, he still turned out pretty neat as well. I really like that coloring. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make a gnome. The last gnome we did was 4 inches tall for the ranger. This one's going to be 5 inches tall because when you compare them side by side, you'll notice even though one's taller than the other one, it's that hat that produces the height. So they're going to seem like they're the same height, being 4 and 5 inches tall, but that hat, that's what we need for today's carving. So 5 inches tall, knife only on American basswood, and let's flip the camera around and we'll jump into it. Today we are carving this wizard gnome for our collection. He's got a nice little hat brim there and some little fanciness to the front of his robes, a belt in the back, and some texture to the back of the hair there. So on the block that we're going to use, it's going to be a regular 1x1 block, and this will be a knife only carving, and I'm going to use a Helvey rough out knife that I have. And for our measurements, the hat brim is going to be about 1 inch down right there. And the bottom of the hat brim is about 1.25 inches. It's about a 1/4 inch thickness for the hat brim. Now that hat brim is going to be really delicate. If you want to show off how good you are at carving, you can make that hat brim as thin as you want to. But I'm going to make it a 1/4 inch just so it's easy enough for everyone to follow along on. Now the top of the hands is 2 3/4 inches down from the very top of the carving. The bottom of the hands is 3 3/4 inches. That means this section here is about 1 inch long. The sides here, I'm coming in about 1/4 inch on each side here and putting a line there, and that's where the side of his robe is going to be. And now it'll be a little bit further in on the top part and a little bit further out to the bottom, so his robes kind of flow outwards, and that's going to give us that look that we're looking for. For the sides of the head here, that is about half the distance in. It's about half of the 1 inch section here. It's about a 1/2 inch in from the front or back. Okay, so that shoulder there is 2 inches down from the top. And we're going up at a 45-degree angle from there, the side of the head, and the side of the head right there, and that is about a 1/2 inch in on either side. And that's just the rough drawing for us. We're going to come out of the top here with his hat and kind of kink it over to the side over here. So it's going to come down like so. And yeah, that is all the drawing we're going to need to get started on this. And we'll go ahead and jump right into it. And I think that to get started on it, I'm going to take off a little bit of these rough edges here along the outside edges around the hat. And then we're going to start taking out some wood, because we need to take out wood along the hat brim, all the way around the head and around over the shoulders. We got a lot of work to do in here. So we're going to start by going ahead and setting in our stop cuts all along the carving here, right there along the top of the hat brim. And I'm just going to carve right up to it. And stop cut again. Same thing on this corner. Now for the hat line, I drew that all the way around the whole carving. I just continue the lines all the way around. As I went to the back to add a little flair, I made it go a little bit lower towards the back. And it's about maybe 1/8 of an inch decline, a little bit 1/8 of an inch lower in the back. So when you do your measurements, if you just make the back side measurements 1/8 of an inch lower, and this is 1/16 of an inch lower than the front, you'll be able to match those up pretty well. So still just rocking that in, stop cut right up to it, rock it in right here, stop cut up right to it. And then I'm going to start trying to join all the way around here. Now this hat brim is going to be a real difficult project for some folks because it is so easy to split the wood along this grain here. So this hat brim is a really difficult thing that we're trying to attempt. The rest of the carving is going to be pretty simple, because I didn't want to have too many difficult things to do on one carving. And this hat brim can be enough. It can also be a spot where someone gets cut if they're not careful because you get cut when you lose control of the knife, and cutting through something or it getting loose, the knife getting loose as it cuts through that is one way we can lose control of the knife rather easily. So we're going to do the bottom of the hat brim first so that we're not, let me think of the right way to say that, because it's the right way to say that. I was going to say it's easier, and it's not. It's going to be difficult no matter how we do it. Whichever side you do first is the easy side, and if the side you do second, it's going to be harder. So when we're doing it from the top, it'll be a little bit harder than what we got going on right now. So there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm just going to keep taking out wood on all those corners as we start to work our way around. Now over here on the right side of the shoulder, I can take out a little bit more. I can do the same thing on the left side here. Start to chip out a little bit more as we go. Just kind of fix it up a little bit. I'm just doing sweeping cuts there, right? In and up as I go. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side here. Try to even that up a bit more. There we go. On the back here, we got a lot we can remove along that plane because we're not going to have the entire carving there have that sharp point there. And I didn't mention this already, but the overlay you see here up in the left corner, that is the carving that we're working on right now. So this guy right here, that's what he's going to look like eventually. And I can't see him, so I'm going to be referencing this carving that I finished as I go. But you'll be able to, of course, reference the overlay that you see right there. So I'm just going to straighten out this back of the carving a little bit. A paring cut along the bottom here. Take off some of that wood. Start to flatten it out. And that's not too bad right there at all. Now we're going to keep taking out up underneath this hat brim as we go around. All the way around. Just getting a little depth on there. To keep yourself from snapping off more than you need to, smaller cuts are the order of the day. We're going to need to make sure we maintain smaller cuts, taking out less wood than you might want to. Less wood than maybe you're capable of taking, because if you take a little bit too much one time, you're going to cut that hat brim right off once we get into this. And I'd rather doctor it up once we get further into it. So you can see, like, I don't have that much. And up underneath this area here, this is looking terrible. It's looking all rough, and that's okay. We're going to leave that for now because we're going to be thinning that out a little bit as we go. So I'm going to start working the top here, and I'm going to do a rocking cut right there along the top of that, pushing in real good. Now, this is where I need to explain a little bit for those who are new, stop cuts. That stop cut is called a stop cut specifically because it's going to stop our cut right there, and that is beneficial so we don't slice through the rest of this. So don't start doing a slicing cut coming down until you have a good stop cut in place, and then don't carve in past that stop cut. You can see that stop cut right here goes in a little bit deeper than where we stopped at. That's fantastic. That allows me to get right to there before I continue on and start putting more stop cuts in. If we mess up on this, we can make it a smaller hat, just take away the brim and make it a regular gnome style hat. But let's try not to. Let's try not to mess up on this. So, simple stop cut, rocking it in, and then carving down to it, little chips at a time, like so. Stop cut, little chips. Nice stop cut, rock it in, little chips. Don't take off too much. Taking off too much is how we get in trouble. Rock that in. A few little stop cuts. Rocking that in. And a few little stop cuts. like so. So we're making good progress so far. We're almost all the way around. Rocking it in, and some stop cuts, just like so. Same thing up here. And right now it's not the time to try to make the hat brim even. If you see, we got it a little bit wider through there than up here in this corner. We can fix that once we get it cut in more, right? And we're going to round it off a little bit more as we go, but we want to leave as much meat there as we can right now while we work on providing our depth first and getting as much depth into that as we can, nice and slowly. We're not hurrying. We're not in a rush on this little spot. This is a more difficult thing to pull off. And if you pull it off right, you're going to be proud of yourself, and rightfully so, because this is something that even experienced carvers can mess up on quite easily. I'll tell you a secret too. If you do mess up on it, you get some wood glue, not wood glue. Wood glue would work, but super glue. And I happen to have a large quantity of super glue ready to go. Do not feel embarrassed. Do not feel sad. If you cut it off and you want to super glue your hat brim back on, that's just fine. It's happened to all of us before. You won't be original in that. Don't feel too bad. Still just chipping away at it a little bit at a time. Now that we got a little bit of depth provided all the way around, I'm not doing a stop cut every time I go through here. I'm only doing like a stop cut to like free the chip out, because it's easy to stop the knife at that plane. And you can see it still looks kind of rough up underneath that hat brim, and that's quite all right. And we're gonna still bring it over. And I start to work on that a little bit right now. So this is the front of the carving right here. You can see our hand marks. So on that corner right here in the left side corner above that right shoulder, I'm going to start taking that off, slicing through that wood grain like so. So we got that pretty flat right there, right? Now, at the top part, I'm going to start angling that like so. Right like that. Start carving that front off as well. And do the same thing around here to the back. And you see we're starting to get some shape there. Now I'm going to take off a little bit more on that side. Take off these hard corners. So we're starting to provide a good little shape to the top of that hat. Now here's something we want to do. We want to come in and create that kink in here. So we're going to angle the knife at about a 45-degree angle. I'm going to come in about like so for the angle. I'm going to come in like that, and I'm just going to kind of rock it in. I'm going to be very gentle. Okay? It's very easy to lose the tip here as I do this. I'm just very gently going to cut off a little bit. I'm not putting a lot of pressure in here, and I am not cutting hard or fast. Putting a little bit of that lip. Okay, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to keep that same angle and rock it in, and I'm going to take off just as little as I can. As little as I can, and as little as I can, to start to bring that in even more. If it's too difficult to providing a little like push, if you have to push real hard to make a cut in here, stop. Take less and try again. That is definitely the order of the day. There we go. So we got a little bit of a kink over right there with it. Let's go ahead and take off more on this side here. See, I'm starting to curve that around. I'm going to do the same thing on the back now. So on the back side here, take that hat down a little bit, and we'll take off more around the outside edge. Take off more of the front side edge. And just keep eyeballing it. Figure out where you need to go. Take a look at it from the top. See how far in you are on all the sides and say, okay, I need to take off some right here. Because we need to have this coming up into that kink. So just to show you with a pencil, I want to have this coming in a bit more and then coming kind of down and back over, like so. So to do that, I'm going to do a stop cut in from this side, like so. And then I'm just very gently going to carve up to it like that. And then I'm just going to deepen that and deepen it again, like so. Like I'm starting to do that right there. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing to the back side. Right, like so. Same thing to the back side. Rock that cut in, and then just carve up to it a little bit at a time. A little bit at a time. A little bit at a time. Forgive me for repeating myself, trying to emphasize things. So we got a good kink to that hat now, don't we? Now, for this edge, that's a little bit too hard of an edge. I'm just gonna cut that off. Same thing for this other side here. Just gonna carve it in, cut it off. So it's starting to get a real good kink into it right there. Now that top part, we need to round that off more, don't we? So let's go ahead and start to round that off. Take off those saw marks and those hard lines. Like so. We're getting there. He's really got that kinked over. Take off this almost 45-degree angle. We don't want a 45-degree angle on that hat. We want it to be rounded over a bit more, like that. So I think we got that hat topper just about done. So now let's work more on the brim, because you can see the brim is still quite square. So what we're going to do is on each of those corners, we're just going to knock off about 1/8 of an inch on every corner. And then we're going to try to smooth it out, taking off those saw marks and smoothing off each of those corners that we just made. We're not going to round this head out perfectly. We're going to round it out a good bit. If you want to round it out perfectly, you can go for it. I just don't think it's entirely necessary to round it out perfectly smooth, or perfectly round, I should say. Just close is good enough. Get most of those hard edges off. So you can see I've gotten it about like so, and it's not terribly far off from where I did with the original guy, you see? But you can't tell how square-ish it is when he's done up. And you still want to have some good depth around him. So now I'm going to clean up those lines along the top of the hat here. Go back in and recut those as necessary, just to make those lines look better and make them look cleaner, like we know what we're doing. If you notice, right here in this section, I'm really close to the outside edge. Well, I don't want to leave that. I'm going to go ahead and fix that now. Something I didn't notice before. If you see problems like that, go ahead and fix them. Take your time. Be happier with your carving and the end result if you do it and just fix the problems that you find. Okay, now that top edge is really looking good. We took the time to clean it up. So we're doing good, we're looking good. we're making great progress. So next, let's work on setting in our elbows here so we know where we're going with those. So along that line, I'm going to come in right along that plane right here with a stop cut, right along where the base of that arm is going to go, the base of that elbow. I'm going to try to rock that stop cut in right down, apparently, to the depth of how deep we're going. So you can see I got all the way down in there. And then I'm just going to carve right up to it and ship that out. Right there. We'll do the same thing the other side. Same angle. And rock that cut in and cut up to it. All right, like so. And you can see we did pretty good at getting the same angle each side. Now that's a flat plane we want to create here on that corner. So I'm going to take it out till we match up with the line that we drew for the side of the body. About like so. Do the same thing on that side. I'm going to use a paring cut over here because I'm right-handed. And that seems to be the easiest way to carve from this direction. Rotate your carving as needed to find the right spot for you. And get the cuts that you need done. There we go. We made good progress. We got those elbows set in. Now let's set in the rest of the robe hands here. So I'm going to go right in line with the bottom of that elbow. I'm going to have the base of my blade right there against it. And I use that to help guide me as I bring that knife all the way down and rock it in to set where that arm's going to go. And I'm just going to carve up to it. A little bit at a time. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side here. Put that blade right up on that corner, and then you can use that to rock it in right along that plane that you already drew, like so. And that didn't make it perfect. Look, it didn't line up just right. Let's go ahead and fix that. Let's adjust that like so. I came from the point I'm at the bottom and adjusted up to it. It wasn't going to meet up the way we wanted it to. So I'm going to be very gentle. Cut this out. Kind of got to go through a line to get to the second line. That's okay. I will carve it out, and you won't even know it happened. Right like so. Doing good, making good time. Remember, you're not in a rush. There's a carving. You don't need to hurry. Just taking a little bit off on the front there. Now we got those saw marks there in the front right there. We don't want to leave saw marks behind because saw marks take paint and stain differently than the rest of the carving. Anywhere a blade touched is going to be smooth and kind of glassy, and those saw marks are going to be rough, and they're going to soak up some paint a bit easier, which means they'll wind up darkening more. It's not going to look as good. So to smooth this bad boy out, we're going to go through it. We're going to take off all those saw marks where we can right now. I'm just going to do this in the back here. Slice these saw marks off. So we got to pay attention to the grain direction too, because if you're getting tearing when you're doing it, you're going the wrong direction. Remember this, when you're working with wood grain, the grain direction is kind of like the hair on a dog. If you put it in one direction, it all lays down nice and smooth. That's when you get a smooth cut. But if I go back the other direction, it stands all that hair up and it ruffles all the hair. We're trying not to do that because that's when we want it getting tearing. So just like the hair on a dog, you want to smooth it out. And when you get it smooth cuts, you'll know you got it done right. You can't just look at a grain and know exactly which way to cut right off the bat. Well, most of us can't. Some folks who are far more experienced than I am can look at a stick of wood and know immediately which direction to carve. I'm not that guy. I'm not there yet. So if you're not there either, welcome to the same boat that I'm in. No worries. Okay, a little stop cut there above the hands to start to set that in, then carving down to it and chipping that out like so. Now what else do we want to do next? I think we're going to worry about setting in the head and the beard, which will help us set in our hands. Because I've done this carving once, so I'm trying to think of the right way to do it as we go to get him done and looking right. So I think that's what we're going to do. I think we're going to set in our neckline next. So his neckline is going to be right about here. That's about midway up that incline there. And just kind of come right like so. Maybe a little further down. Okay, so midway up in there, I'm going to try to do a V cut in here. So I come down, in, and then up and in. Right there. It's kind of a 45-degree angle on this plane. Kind of like this angle right here. And then coming at this angle right there. That's what I'm going to be doing on that. So a 45-degree angle in. Then right down to it. And I'm not doing much of a line, just a bit of one. That's the same thing right here. Just to begin to set in that chin. And it's poking out a lot farther than it needs to right now because that's more than we need. Okay, so we're gonna do too. We're gonna set in the rest of this all the way around the body here to set in the hairline. We're gonna work it right around the back. Worry about this shoulder here too. You see I keep pivoting it and looking at it from the front to see if I'm doing it right. Am I lining it up right? Is it lining up? What do I need to adjust? Pay attention to that as you go. And so we got a little hairline roughed in all the way around the back of the head. And we got a good face done. Now that's a real pointy face. So we can start to take that down a bit. Like so. Sink in that a bit more. And this side as well. There we go. So we started to get our face set in a little bit more. Now let's set in our arms. So our elbows, you can see where those lines go, right up in here, right? We're going to put the tip of our blade right in there, straight in along the plane of this carving, and then we're going to sink the tip in. As deep as we can. I'm just going to rock it in, and you can see I got pretty good, fairly deep right there. You can see how deep I got, right? Pull it out, and I do the same thing, tip going into that corner, coming in from the top, and just pushing it in, sinking in until I get about yay deep, pulling it out, and now I'm going to carve that chunk out. Starting where that line ended right there, I'm going to put the tip of my knife there, and I'm going to carve straight down, going deeper as I go, and pop that out. That's the first thing I can do to start setting that up. I'm going to do the same thing over here on the other side. I am going to, you can see right now that right there is lower than my lines are over here. So I'm going to try to match this on this side. Rocking it in like so. And then from the top as well, like so. You notice I went in faster and easier from the side. Or sorry, I went in faster and easier from the top than I did the side, and that's because the wood grain. When I come in this direction here, I'm coming in between the wood grains. That knife sinks in deeper, faster, and easier when doing that. So if you're wondering, wow, that went in really easy that way, that's because of the wood grain. Right on, just like before. And we want to get deeper as we go down. So shallower at the top, deeper as we go down. And that's going to create that kind of barrel chest effect that we want. Right like so. Looks like his chest comes out a bit more. That's a bit too pronounced. We can fix it a little bit though, like that. Now, as we look at this carving, there's some things we need to fix. The back side here, that is too far out, too hard. So let's smooth out this plane as it comes up towards the hairline. We're just going to smooth it out by taking those sharp angles we got there by it and bringing that plane further down the back. Smooth it out like that. That looks a lot better, doesn't it? Okay. So let's set in on the back here, the arms. We're going to come up to about the same height as the inside of our arms go. Right to there. Same thing over here. Now this is a knife only project, so we can't use a V-tool. I would use a V-tool and knock that out pretty quickly. If you want to use a V-tool and you have one, just start up here and push down and out. Go 2 or 3 passes to make sure it's a deep cut. But we're going to use a knife. So I'm going to start right here at the top, and I'm going to do a 45-degree angle out. And then I'm just going to follow on the right side of the line, all the way down there. I'll turn around, and a 45-degree angle from the other side, and I'm going to follow on the right side of the line again, and just pull out a little sliver, like so. If I need to, I can go back in there, and I can deepen it up, like so, to get a little bit more depth on that. Same thing over here, right like that, and then right like so. And we'll pop that out. Smooth that out. Spend time as you go looking at your carving, figuring out what else do you need to do. Where can I smooth things out? Where do I need to smooth things out? What needs my attention to make this carving look a little bit better? And just put a little of your attention in that spot. Okay, so we're looking pretty good. What section do I need to work on next? Let's go ahead and do the face. Finish up our nose and our beard. Put a little cheeks in there. So we're going to put our nose right there. Maybe a 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch down. Let's see how deep that is. That is about 3/8 down. That's pretty good. I'm on the money. Look at me. I'm just going to put a stop cut in right there on that. And I'm going to carve up to it. And that makes that jaw come out pretty far. If you don't like that, is it too far? Carve it in a little bit. Take that hard line off it, like so, if you need to. Whatever you think that you want to do, you go ahead and do. It's your carving. You're deciding what it's going to end up being, so do it how you want to. Now for the side of the nose, we want this nose to be a nice wide nose, and you can make it wide as it comes out or wide as it goes in. If you'll notice, this guy, his nose gets wider as it goes up. But on other carvings I've done, like those dwarves in the background, they get shallower as they go up. And this guy here, it's just kind of a hodgepodge of it's a big thick nose. However you do the nose, it doesn't matter. However you want to do it. I'm just going to carve a straight up and down line here. And then I'm going to do one for the other side as well, straight up and down. And then I'm going to carve out each side. We'll do a little paring cut right here to provide depth around the nose. Like so. Now for this nose, because we don't want to have a square nose, we're going to undercut that corner right there. See how that knife went underneath that nose? Same thing over here. It's going to go right underneath that corner right there. And I'm going to take that corner off and that corner off. I'm going to take those hard lines off as it goes up the side here. That's a much better looking nose. Now from that nose, we're going to do some V cuts. we're going to add cheeks for this guy. Because you get more face out. It's not underneath the hood, right? So we're not going to hide as much of the face. So we're going to do a V-cut coming down and then up, and then a line going up here for this big kind of tall cheek going on, okay? So a little V-cut right here, going in and then up. Same thing there. And then a line coming down that will carve up to, like so. Okay. You can kind of see it right there. I'll zoom in there, like that. So same thing kind of going on over here. And you can do this as one line. If the two lines is too much, you can kind of see it better right there, right? Two lines. And this is really fine level detail that doesn't need to be there. One line going up. And there we go. We got a little bit of a face set in, as you can see. Got cheeks on each side. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of detail left to do, so we're just going to do that little bit of a V right here underneath the nose. Now, how far down you put that V is how thick the mustache is. And if you want a big, thick, bushy mustache, you go down a little bit farther to put that V in. If I put it up higher, he's got a thinner mustache. So I'm going to sink the knife there. And I'm sticking the knife on top of the lines, not on the lines. So you can see the knife marks are a little bit higher than the lines are. Why? Because then when I carve this out, I'm left with no pencil marks whatsoever. Easily gotten rid of without a problem. So that's fantastic. All right, now let's go ahead and set up the rest of these arms, because we haven't taken all the saw marks off these here. I'm going to take that hard corner off right there. And now I'm going to do a V-cut right here in the top middle section of those arms. Then I'm going to do a slicing cut on the right side and on the left side to make a nice deep V-cut down the middle of those to separate these two arms. Now on the bottom side here, we're going to cut off that corner just like so, carve up to it. And then we're going to make sure that V-cut goes all the way down to the base. And we're going to 45 that and that. So you kind of see what I did there, right? Make sure we get that corner out of there. Little triangle. You see I cut a triangle out. I did a 45, and I went up underneath it, and I took that kind of corner triangle out there. Now, I'm going to carefully take off all of this roughness from the saw marks. Same thing over here. Getting rid of those saw marks. Right like so. Looking much better. Now what we're going to do is, for all along this corner here, we're going to round that over. And then in that corner, we're going to put a little bit of a V-cut, like the cloth is folded over. And then one right in front of it as well, like so. Same thing over here. We're going to carve that corner down, the top part up, and put a little V-cut right in that corner, and then one right in front of it as well, to provide like folded cloth there as we go. Now for these, we'll put some cuffs on his robes. So we're going to do that line right there, about 1/4 of an inch in, and then we're just going to cut the right side out, just like the robe has a cuff on the end as it meets up. Do the same thing on the other side here, about 1/4 of an inch in, all the way down, and then we're just going to carve up to it, like so, like so, and take away any lines that are way too rough. If it's too hard of a line, go ahead and get rid of it. But I think that's turning out just fantastic. And you can see this guy's arms are higher than the original one I did. I kind of like the sharper V one. You get to determine how you want to do it. Do you want to have them up higher? Do you like them down lower? Decide how you want to go about that, you know? So next we got to put in the belt in the back, and we got to do that fancy little thing here in the front of the robes. So let's go ahead and look at drawing that on there first, because the robes will be separated right here down the middle, and as they come down they're going to open up, and so we're just going to kind of draw a line like so from about the middle of the cuffs, spreading out and opening up as it comes down. I want to make sure both these sides match, so this one's going to come out a little bit farther. Actually, a little bit farther than that. That's probably closer. Okay, and to do this, I'm going to turn it upside down. Actually, carve a straight line, well, straight on the angle, and just curve it in and down. And this one, same thing. Straighten the angle, and just curve it in and down, like so. And then I'm just going to carve from the inside to that point to remove the wood. Like so. I'm going to do a pairing cut on this side because I'm right-handed. Like so. We got that separated out. Now, to provide that neat kind of spiral effect that you see on the other one and on this one, we're going to draw some lines and then just V-cut them. So angled down, angled down, angled down, about the same width each time. About the same width. It goes off the edge, it goes off the edge. So that's what we're doing, okay? Now to do these, we're just going to V-cut them. So I rock it in, I rock it in. A little bit higher. And take your time on these. These will be hard to get done right if you hurry, because you'll mess up and you have to redo something. So just little V-cuts as you go, tiny little ones. And because I can't get too far into this corner, I gotta flip it around and come the other direction. Start up here, in there, and again, flip it around as I come to that corner. And continue on this side. Just like that. So, we've got some good little detail on the front of that wizard right there. Now we want to set in his robes. So we're just going to draw from about that elbow straight across. We're going to come down and do the same thing again. What is that, about 1/4 of an inch belt? Now, wherever your belt ends over here on one side, see how it ends kind of midway underneath that elbow? We'll make sure the other side ends the same spot. That way it looks even as we go across. Now we're just going to set that line. I'm going to start in the bottom right here and just rock that knife blade in and then cut up to it and then chop those free. Same thing, I'm moving a little further back and getting over the middle and just carve those out and chop them free. Rotate around if you need to get the other direction and carve all the way up the inside of that elbow and then right up to it and free them up. Just like that. Now we can do the top side of the belt. We'll carve down to it. Other side as well. If a chip didn't come out first, recut it. Pivot if you need to. Cut it from a different angle, different direction. However you need to. And go ahead and get it cut out. Okay, now we got kind of rough edges down at the bottom, so I'm going to clean those up, coming up to that belt. And take a look at that. Looking pretty good. Now that belt is really big, bigger than we need it to be. Let's round it off. To do that, come in here and put a 45-degree angle along the edge of that belt, all the way up to that elbow. I'm going to do the same thing the other side, and you can do it 45 degrees from the top like this. You can just carve it down, and carve up to it, carve it down, carve to it. I find it's easier to do it sideways sometimes and come in like this. But however you want to do it, you do it that way. Now it's still a little too far out, so I'm going to come in here and take off the outer section like that. Let me extend it up a little bit now. And now, just like that spiral pattern here, we do the same thing but on the belt. So we're going to carve up and around, same distance away, up and around, up and around, and up and around. Okay? And this is just little V cuts again. So from one direction to the other. If you take off too much, you're going to chip things and ruin your belt. So don't take off too much. You notice I'm doing it kind of from one side first, doing all the top sections. Right there. Now I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to try to do the other section. Like that. And like that. And that gives us that neat little effect. Now, you can leave it like that, but to make it pop, we're going to do something a little bit more, okay? So around each of these corners where it comes in like this, I'm going to take out a triangle, second cut, and that one. And again, right there, and like there. And you can see it provides a little bit more depth to that rope, kind of like that. Just triangle, triangle, pop it out. Triangle, triangle, pop it out. We'll do the same thing at the top. So we're taking off that corner, get in there from there, and take it out. So 45-degree angle there, 45 there, and undercut it like so. I like the look that this extra step adds to a belt like that, but it's completely up to you as to whether or not you want to spend the time to do that, because I think it really just sets it apart now. It looks like it's a twisted cord going around his waist in ways that it didn't before. Now, for these shoulders, they look a little too high. He looks stiff. He looks like he's anxiously anticipating something, and that's not the look we're going for. So I'm going to take those corners off of the shoulders a little bit. And now all of a sudden he looks a lot more relaxed, doesn't he? A lot more relaxed, a lot more willing to go with the flow. Not like he's waiting to be judged, right? Looking much better. Much, much better. Okay, so now we're going to be adding more details in here. So let's add more details to the mustache. Make this mustache pop, okay? We put that V down a little farther here to make that mustache a bit wider. Well, if we put a top line on that stash, we can kind of define it even more. So I'm just going to put a little V cut in, right like so. And it's not going to show up very easily right now. When it catches that black walnut Danish oil and that wax, it'll pop a bit more, okay? Outside of that, we can start adding some detail on the hair. Clean that up. And to do that, we're just going to randomly go through and put some V cuts. I'm just going to draw a straight cut down there, and then like so, and snip out the bottom, okay? Just a little slash like that. And then do it a couple times along the back here as we go. And that's just going to provide, and you can vary the length, make some longer, some wider, some shorter ones. Some they're just like little V cuts like that along the base, okay? Maybe one that's a lot closer is just a lot thinner. And one over here that kind of makes a bit wider of one, like that. And we're providing a good little hairline. Makes that whole head look more three-dimensional than it had before. And this is just kind of randomness that we're adding. And we're going to keep it going all the way into the beard. Now with the hairline, it's a lot easier than the beard. Remember, the beard is flowing out from the nose for the mustache, and then out from the cheeks down. And so it's coming down to the V here, and it's coming out from the mustache down. So you can do those lines here, here. If you get down here, you don't want to be going out so much as you want to be going down. So that's food for thought for how a beard works. You can just flip it out and just do a little V like that. That provides a little notch there, and it makes them look a little more three-dimensional. Doing one on here on the other side too. Maybe one close to the middle as well. Provide a little depth there. Put one of these longer ones over here. And then one right here as well. Okay. We just put a lot of life into this fella right there on the beard, didn't we? And that's pretty good. Now, I don't like the way that brim is. So, your mileage may vary. You decide how much you want to do to work on this brim. And if you want to spend some more time working the hat, you can. But for this guy here, I'm going to thin that brim out a bit. I never cleaned at the bottom side of it. I'm going to thin that out a little bit. Just like so. Looking a lot better. Take those hard corners off all the way around as well. On the top of it. Then we'll flip them over. I'll do the same thing on the bottom of them. Right, like so. And that looks actually pretty nice. Okay, did I forget anything on this guy? Oh, we didn't do the separation right there on the front of the robe. So that's just a little V-cut because we got the robe separated down here at the bottom, so it needs to separate all the way up underneath the beard, or to that area, I should say. So just put a little V-cut there, clean up the edges underneath your beard, and down to that as you need to, just like so. And yeah, that's pretty good for our guy. You take that hard corner off the shoulder right there. But again, like I'm getting to that point where I'm just nitpicking now. There's not much else we can do for him. He is at the level that we're looking for. Take a look at this too, because I got two different looks going on here. I did a wider head on the one we just did and a thinner head on this one. This guy here has a wider cheekbone and thinner at the top, and that's the look I was going for with him. And I wanted a more angular look to the arms. Here I didn't do that. I went a little bit easier on this other guy. You can do it either way. You can do it in either direction that you want to go. Both of them are very similar and just a little bit different. Also, I'm getting ready to wash this guy up so I can paint him for the painting video, but I want to talk real fast about the color difference in the Danish oil that we got going on here. Because you can see the figure on the right here, I did Danish oil on, and he's definitely darker than on the right here. So on the left, he's darker than the right. The difference here is that I washed this guy and let him dry for 24 hours before I applied Danish oil. This guy I washed and I applied Danish oil within the hour. And I want to do that because some folks were wondering how to get a lighter color of Danish oil with the black walnut Danish oil. When you do the Danish oil immediately after washing, like this about an hour later, that water is still in there, so that Danish oil can't soak in as much, and that gives you a lighter finish. So if that's what you're going for, it works fantastic. And I want to show you the difference, which is what I did there. So you can see the difference there. So if you want to go for that look, that's what you can do to get that. This is, like I said, dry, and so that Danish oil soaks in further, and then you wax and buff it, and you get just like that. And this is less. So there's going to be a painting video next. Check that out if you want to see how we paint him up. But I'm going to take him over to the sink, and I'm going to wash him up. And so you can see what he looks like all scrubbed and ready to go in 3, 2, and boom. There he is, all washed up. And a little bit of my beard hair on him. There he is, all washed up and taken care of. Looking absolutely fantastic. Really like the way he turned out. He turned out just fine. Just fine. Okay, so I'm going to paint him up in the painting video, but yeah, that's where we're at. And that's our carving for today, folks. They turned out pretty neat. We've got a lot of great work done. If you're interested in the painting video to see how we get that finish on the painted guy, or how we get this right here, I got videos on the channel to do that. The painting videos will be up next. You'll see a link to that at the end of the video description. And you can search the channel for how to apply Danish oil and wax. I've got a short on that, as well as a full video on that, so you can see exactly how I apply that Danish oil and wax to get that finish as well. So outside of that, I really appreciate your time. If you like this video, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot, and I'd really appreciate it. Other than that, head over to Instagram and give me a follow over there. And yeah, if you want to help out the channel, you can do so by heading over to the website and buying some neat shirts or some stickers off of Etsy. The stickers on Etsy are going to be going away after February 22nd as I switch to a new supplier that's going to have them on the main website. So if you're interested in those stickers at all, getting some now, otherwise those designs might be gone. I don't know which ones are going to make it, which ones aren't. I think that some of them are. I think the Whittling Vibes is going to make it, but I'm not certain if it's going to make it in the same form it's in now. So, outside of that, really appreciate your time. Watch one of the videos popping up the screen, and you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time.